Hey guys, I thought I'd do a video on my Colorado XT pontoon. I've seen a lot of videos online on these things and have enjoyed a lot of people's ideas, some great ideas. Just thought I'd show you what I'd done to mine and things I like, things I don't like, things like that. So anyway, bear with me. This is one of my first videos as far as putting it online, so we'll see how it turns out. Anyway, let me first show you this little stand I made for my gear and tackle. Kind of makes it easy as far as unloading the boat. Put it all on that stand and roll it into the garage, and then you can roll it back and forth and instead of carrying one thing at a time. So anyway, let me show you this. Basically mount the motor on the back. Got my batteries down there. Got a place to hold my fishing poles. Place to mount my fish finder, things like that. So anyway, handy little rack. Works well. Let me pause this and I'll put my stuff on the boat and I'll show you the boat. Okay, so here's my boat basically rigged up and ready to go. I've got on this little jet ski trailer that I modified to set the pontoon on. Still got a few little things I gotta rig up on it. Some straps to hold it down good in place, but other than that, it should be real good. I've been using it on a 5 by 10 foot utility trailer, which it sits just fine, but it's short and it's awful heavy. This one here, I can actually back it up in the water, have it rigged up on shore and ready to go, and I don't have to haul everything in and out of the boat. But anyway, this is my rig. As you can see, there's done a few different modifications. Here on the ground, I have one of the front motor mounts made. I believe Nate D is the one that originally came up with this mount, and it's a great mount. I wasn't real thrilled with how it ran with the motor in front. I like the convenience of having the motor there, but it also blocks your entrance of getting on the boat and things like that. I modified mine a little bit with that plate that I made out of some old running boards, and I also made the back rest for your feet, and mine's made where it can bolt on the back instead of using zip ties. I actually have a carriage bolt that goes through there and it holds it in place. And I had drilled some holes in the mount to make it work. Worked fine, but like I say, in a little bit of wind on open water in a larger lake, it really kind of wanted to push the boat sideways, and it kind of struggled a little bit. So I ended up going back to the rear mount, and I'll show you what I have here. A lot of people complain about the rear mount and the weight that's in the back, and I agree, there's a lot of weight with the battery and everything, but I think the most important thing with one of these boats is that you have a air gauge to see how much air pressure you're running. Because the first time I got this one out and used it, I thought I had plenty of air in it. As you can see, that's kind of squishy. Thought, well, that's got to be 2.5 pounds of air at least. Well, guess what? 2.5 pounds of air is a lot tighter than that. I probably had about a pound in it. Anyway, I made this little air gauge. Got me a small gauge. Had to make a mount on the inside of this. I don't think you can see it in this deal, but you have to have something in there that actually pushes the center of this mount in, so the air will actually push up and read this gauge. Come to find out, I was probably running just a little over a pound of air when I first tried it out. 2.5 pounds of air, and these things are tight. And I think that's probably the most important thing. When these things are tight with 2.5 pounds of air, I don't have any trouble with the back of this thing being low in the water. Now, of course, my seat is mounted up close and things like that. Of course, you notice I have a pedestal, and of course it's swivel mounted. I have this seat that's a different type of seat. It's very comfortable. The swivel seat works real great. Of course, I have my depth finder over here, and it runs back to the back here. You can see here where I have this mounted. Let me get over here. Under here, I have mine bolted under here, and this is actually, this pin here pulls out. You can adjust the depth of this up and down. Works real good. Of course, I think that fish finder lies to me a lot, but you know, most of them do, I think. But it does good as far as telling you your depth and things like that. I like it mounted there. It stays out of the wake of a lot of things. I could have mounted it on my trolling motor, but I didn't. But it works well there. as you can see up here, this is my little battery for it. I made this little case, just a little case that I had, and I put some foam in it to hold the battery tight. So it sits there. As you can see, my trolling motor, I actually have a plug on it. The reason I have the plug was initially when I did the front mount, I needed the plug up front. So I wired the motor with the plug and had the plug in my front mount. When I switched to the back, I just went ahead and put the plug back here. Don't really need the plug. I could just wire the motor directly to the battery just like that with the wing nuts, but I decided to just leave it the way it was and stuff, and it works well. You can see my anchor with this little bracket here that I made. Raises it about another 3 or 4 inches, keeps the anchor from dragging in the water. I personally like this anchor system. I know a lot of people have complained about it. They say it's very tough to do. I'm not using the regular anchor line. I'm using more of a cotton line. I don't expect it to last as long, but it seems to go through the rollers really smooth and does a real good job. And I actually like the anchor system on it. That's a 3-pound anchor, but when the prongs are flipped out, it works really well. My rod holders, I got these from Academy. You can buy a 2-pack for about 18 bucks. I've got 2 over there and 2 here. This mount comes in real handy. I use one for my fish finder over there. You can put another one over here, so you can have 2 here, a rod over there, and then I have one mount on the seat behind me. That seat mount works okay. Just remember that your fishing pole's there. If you go underneath anything that's hanging down low or a low bridge, you'll need to be careful with that. But they work well. I like this mounting system and stuff. It was real easy to mount on here, and that works real well. Up front here, as you can see, I also made me a standing platform, and this is made out of PVC. It mounts to the back crossbar there and to these foot things here. It's pretty easy. You have to take the pins out to take the frame apart to remove it, but it is removable. This has been very stable. Standing up, caught a 4-pound bass the other day, no problem at all. As anything, I would suggest if you're going to do that, probably wear your life vest, to be safe. If you're standing on this, I wouldn't, follow the manufacturer's instructions as they say. But I like to stand up and fish every now and then. It stretches your legs out, and it does a real good job. Like I say, if you can see from under here a little bit, kind of how it's made. I just kind of put some T's together, some pluses, and made it, and it worked real well. This little white bar I can rest my feet on. It also made it a little stable as far as holding it all together, so that works out well. I use one tackle box here, and then this platform here on this side. This just gives you some storage space to throw things in while you're fishing. You don't always have time to put stuff back in your bag or things like that. You can drop them in here while you're doing some things, and I usually don't carry enough tackle where I need the 2 tackle bags, but that one works real well. In my other little bags, I have this little oar. At first I tried to keep the oars on it, but they were just in the way. When your seat is raised up, you really can't oar anyway. You're too high. So I got rid of them. This one extends out to about 5 or 6 foot, and it's helped when I've gone to shore and had to back away from some things, and it seemed like I got hung up one time and I needed to push off. That little oar comes in handy. So if you had a deal where you need to kind of paddle to shore, you got something with you. I also keep some of this is the accessory bag. I keep an extra prop in here for the motor, just in case you had an issue. I keep me a pump over in this one along with the air gauge, so I pump it up and things like that, so that works out well. Let's see, on the battery, I actually mounted this solar panel, and of course it can just plug in right here and actually charge your battery while you're out. Actually, I've never even had to use that before, because with this trolling motor, and this is the Minn Kota EnduraMax 40, works real well. I've never gone down even to a half charge on my battery, being out 4 or 5 hours across a good sized lake. It just really works well, but it's nice to have the charger thing available if you need to use it. Of course, here in Texas you have to have a TX number, and that's what that tape is there. It's kind of silly considering how fast this goes. I don't know really why you'd have to have it, but it's the law here, so we got to follow that. So, but anyway, it's a great little boat. Like I say, some of these ideas have worked out well for me. I continue to play with it and try and fix things up a little bit more as I go along and stuff. But I really like the way it works. Like I say, that rear mount with your seat adjusted forward and enough air pressure in your pontoons works really well. Doesn't give me any problem as far as the back end sagging or getting across the lake. And I'm about 190, so with all my gear and stuff, it's probably, you know, another 100 pounds maybe with all the gear. So it's, you know, it's pushing close to 300 pounds of stuff on board, and but it really does well. With that front mount, you also got to remember when you come to shore, you got to flip that motor forward, which is kind of a pain. You got to kind of get a running start and to get to the bank, either that or back in. With the way it is now, I can just get a run at shore and flip my motor up in the back and never really worry about it rubbing or hitting anywhere. So, but other than that, guys, this is my rig. As I continue to work on it and play with it, I'll let you know how things come out. But I've really enjoyed it. I can't say enough, you know, as far as something very reasonable as far as to buy. You know, I've got less than $1,000 and everything, and it's quite the rig. Very stable on the water. You can move around on it. Like I say, with that swivel seat, you can turn to run your motor just fine, and it all works well. So anyway, I hope you guys get one and enjoy it, and I'd like to see some more modifications of what people do to theirs. Talk to you all later. Bye.